Okay. So, what's one common thing between Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Larry Page, and Sam Altman, apart from the fact that they're all high achievers? Well, they all worked with a coach. One would wonder why such successful people need a coach. That's what we are going to find out in today's episode of Expert Speak with Surabhi, where I have a candid conversation with experts and bring out their strategies, insights, and tips from where we all can learn and implement. Hello, my name is Surabhi. In last 23 years, I have built and sold two seven-figure businesses, and then now I coach, mentor ambitious founders and CEOs to help grow their business. I'm sorry, this is my first episode and I'm equally nervous and excited, so bear with me, please. Uh, this is really being a debut episode. I had to bring in a very special guest, somebody who's very close to me. He's been a catalyst in my transition from CEO to CEO coach. He's my coach. He's my mentor. Please welcome Deepak Sahni. Deepak
Thank you
has
so much,
imparted
Surabhi.
over.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepak. Welcome. Just brief background on Deepak. Deepak has imparted over 2,000 hours of coaching. His areas of expertise are emotional intelligence, resilience, executive presence, and positive intelligence. He's a great storyteller and teaches the art of storytelling. He's a co-founder of Frenimo's School of Transformation, which coaches budding, which actually trains budding coaches. And I've been their student in the past. Deepak is driven to help successful people shine better and brighter. Deepak, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Surabhi. It's a pleasure and honor. And I just want to add something quickly here before you shoot your questions to me. You mentioned earlier that all these people, successful people, work with coaches and transition, right? And I was just thinking about you yourself. You have been a CEO yourself. You probably had it all in yourself all along. But just this program or this initiation, this approach that you had to look at something different, sort of helped you realize the potential in you to be a coach as well. I thought at the outset I must compliment you on this piece because it just connected the dots for me. Yeah.
Thank
So
you so much.
great.
I
It's
mean,
a pleasure
you
and honor to
you
be
have
with
been
you in your. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a
So
pleasure and
you
honor
have
to
been
be
a
with you.
coach here also to me, encouraging
Yeah.
and inspiring once again. Uh, but I've learned it's been a great exercise to actually go through a formal coach training program with you to really separate myself from the other person who is in the coaching with me, so that I build his or her vision versus my vision of their business. So how to distance and work with that was my biggest learning, I think. And that has been helping a lot. So,
Sure.
jumping into the conversation, few
Sure.
months back, I think I read a book called A Trillion Dollar Coach, and that book
Hmm.
is written by Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosenberg. These are Intuit and Google CEOs, as we would know.
Okay.
And the book is about their tribute to their coach, late Bill
Yes.
Campbell. He passed away in 2016. And Bill Campbell was a legendary football coach turned CEO, turned coach to Silicon Valley. And he coached, and the names are really astonishing. He coached Steve Jobs. He coached the original Google founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, I'm sorry. He coached Jeff Bezos. He coached Netflix founder. He coached Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook. So one would wonder, these really high, ultra high achievers, I would call them, why would they
Hmm.
even seek a coach and go through the journey, and what's the need? So this is my first question to you. Why these successful people even look for a coach?
Yeah, I think that's a very good opening question, Surbi. I haven't coached any of these names, but I have coached people who are CEOs and CXOs. So my response to this question will be based on what I have noticed in them. Sort of think about those names that you just mentioned. I think first and foremost thing about these successful people, the name that you mentioned, who are already reached a level in their professional, personal life cycle, is the high degree of self-awareness. They are aware of their strengths. At the same time, they are aware of what probably they are not good at, or what they are not good at in the context of where they wish to be, which is the second part of successful people. They are always future focused. They're looking ahead. They're trying to be something that will allow them to achieve something more and new. And all the names, marquee names that you mentioned, have enough and more accomplishments that they could rest. But I think they didn't stop there because they knew that there is something more to be done, either for themselves, their own purpose, or for the teams they are part of, or probably the organization. So, high degree of self awareness, a sense of where they want to be in future, and also a realization that perhaps they don't have it in them at that stage of their life also to reach there. And I think that's where they feel the need to work with the coach. And it will be important for us to quickly understand as to what does a coach do and how could these people be helped by them.
Yeah.
I think we have heard this quote, Surbi, a lot of times, that it is lonely at the top, isn't it?
It
Right?
surely is.
So these guys are lonely, remember. So what does coaching do or a coach do? I think first and foremost, coach provide them a very safe space to come and sort of say what they want to say, their anxieties, their fears, their vulnerabilities. It's a safe space. It is a confidential space. It's a space to explore. So that's one thing I think most of these successful people like to do, but they don't get an opportunity to do, and a coach does provide them that opportunity. So that's first one. The second thing is I think nobody challenges them as much in their organization, and sometimes they would might work with a coach to say challenge us in the way we think. Perhaps their
Yeah.
thinking is stopping them, and they wish to be challenged in a very respectful, but in a very pushy way, right? So, coach maybe pushing them out of their comfort zone of both thinking or actions. That could be also a outcome that they would desire from this space. The third and the foremost thing is also the blind spots. Success can be your enemy also, right? You may think that you are the be all and all, you have achieved everything in life, you are equipped, you are capable to do anything else, right? But in the process, those blind spots don't get visible. So when you work with a coach, it also is an opportunity for you to sort of spotlight your blind spot. And the coach does that by asking you questions, giving you feedback, noticing certain patterns and trends, and so on and so forth. So these are few things: the safe space, the confidential space, the blind spot. I think one more point which comes to my mind is I think coaches also play a good sounding board. Now these guys have successful, they have their mind, they know what works, what doesn't work. Sometimes they have dilemmas. Sometimes they have doubts whether they are, because the decision that they're going to take is going to impact millions and millions of people, not within their organization, but the customers, the clients, and so on and so forth. So coaches are also sounding boards who can throw back a question which can create some new insights for these leaders. So multiple things that can be done, but it all comes from the space that these leaders are vulnerable. They know that they need to be different. Their being has to be different than what it is for them to achieve that success, and they're willing to be challenged. I think that primarily is the way I think these leaders come, the place they come from, and that's why they work with coaches. I'll give you a small example of an entrepreneur CEO. Some years back, I coached, and he came with a simple premise that Deepak, please help me improve my sales. All right, make it 10 times. Now we all know that sales is a very very revenue 10 times, not the sales, the revenue 10 times, right? We all know it's a very very challenging space to be in.
Yeah.
So when we started coaching, some of the beliefs and assumptions of this entrepreneur got challenged. One of the belief this person had is that networking helps in building the business, right? And it's a fair thing to say. But what this leader or entrepreneur didn't realize was that he was overdoing it now. It was needed probably in the first 5 years of his work, but not anymore. And when he got this realization, he realized that he is spending disproportionate amount of time in this space because it became his comfort zone. And through the coaching, when he realized that he's probably wasting his time and that time can be leveraged in some other parts of business, that's when the change happened. And
Yeah.
when he overcame that belief and started investing his time in the rightful places, which was part of the coaching, that's when he started noticing that the revenue started to grow. Otherwise, he was stagnating. I don't know whether that
Yeah.
makes sense in the context of how successful people can
Yeah.
benefit also and why they work with coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. And the way, even in my personal experience, I think no matter what kind of culture you build outside in your company, right? And you think it's a open door, people can
Uh,
come and tell me anything and everything. But not everybody feels comfortable around the super boss, right? There is always
yeah,
a hesitation. There is always,
right,
if not, there is always a sugar coating. And
right,
maybe you don't hear it the way you should hear it. I mean, in a
right.
straightforward way, right? Sometimes. And I think so, coach, because the relationship, and like you said, the safe space kind of makes them understand that he or she, the coach, being my biggest well-wisher, they are not going to mislead or misguide me. And if they say something straight on the face so that I can hear it well and
Yeah,
internalize maybe, they
right.
are more open, and that kind of gives them the space to really see. And the mirroring, sounding board, all that you mentioned is so relevant and so true. And
Also,
the
just a
challenging part also.
yeah, just want to add to
Go
this.
on, please.
People who are watching this or who would hear this later, coach is your partner, right?
Yeah,
And coach does his or her role, right? While
yeah,
the leader or the client do their role, right? So this
yeah,
partnership is equal partnership, where coach will do his job, but he's committed to the success of the client, the
yeah,
way the
yeah,
client defines success. So it's not the agenda of the coach. Agenda of the coach is success. The definition and the parameter of success is determined by the client. So that's why this relationship becomes so very beautiful in that sense, right? They are invested in that journey of the client, and
yeah,
client success is the success of a coach. And therefore, I think the successful people tend to be very
yeah,
open about it. Also, remember, not very many people tend to be open about working with a coach, right? Then some people feel
yeah,
it's not good to let the people know, right? But again, I think the name that you gave is an example that successful people are vulnerable also, right?
yes,
And they don't fear letting the world know that they are working with a coach, because what they're doing is for their good and for the good of the large number of people they are leading in their organization or community. So
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think this gives you a
yeah.
sense of
The Good to Great, right? The
yeah,
best book that I can imagine on. I mean, that book opened my eyes for leadership and the level 5 leadership. It resonated so well with me because
yeah,
sheer resolve and extreme humility. And I think
yeah,
when you kind of have that humility and say that I'm not perfect and I also need a sounding board and a thinking partner, and that's this
yeah,
person and I'm working with, that kind of shows to the entire organization that you don't consider yourself perfect and you're open for change and suggestions. So I think it works in so many different ways. Now when we are talking about this, I'm
yeah,
realizing it's the benefits. That brings me to my next question,
yeah,
flowing very beautifully in it, is
yeah.
basically, um, for someone who is successful and who's leading an organization, doing really good in their own space, what can they experience in the whole coaching journey? If you may answer, then if you can answer this in two ways. One is what happens in 1 hour coaching conversation and what happens over a relationship as an engagement. Then that, because
Okay.
that's something that I always hear.
Okay. But let me address the first part of your question, right?
Sure. Yeah.
What should they
Oh,
expect in coaching? Yeah. So there is a small story I would like to share with you, and I'm sure viewers or listeners of this telecast may know it. It's about this a farmer in Texas, USA. He had large farmland, and he was a
right.
successful farmer in that sense. He was making his money, but you know the life of a farmer is difficult, challenging, open to vagaries of nature and hard work and labor and all those issues. So he was pretty living his simple life in some remote part of Texas, right? And making his money, living his, taking care of his family, and so on and so forth. And one of the days, he was approached by an oil company who were doing some research in that area. And they came to him and they said that we believe that there can be oil underneath the large farmland that you have. So will you give us permission to dig in and find out whether there is oil in this part of this? And they paid him some money because they were to block a certain part of their land to sort of dig deep into it. And guess what happened? They found oil, right? So they went back to this farmer and said, "Hey, we found oil and we would like to pay you millions and millions of rupees if you can sell this land to us because we would then draw out oil." And this farmer
Yeah.
made an arrangement where he got lump sum money and some sort of a revenue share of how many barrels of oil would come out.
Wow.
Now, the key question to ask is, yeah, the key question to ask
Mm.
is whether this farmer was always rich because he became a millionaire overnight when the oil was found. Was he always rich, or he became the rich the day the oil was found? That's the question. Now, somebody will say
Yeah.
uh, he became rich on the day he got the money. Money was in his pocket. But my response and the learning from this story is that he was always rich, but he didn't knew. He
Ah,
didn't know
yes.
till the time this oil
Somebody
company.
had to come in.
Yeah. So, answering your first part of the question, what to expect is a coach can help you find within you all that you have to be able to go where you want to go. We are not very clear on our strengths. What is it there in our being that can be helpful to us, that can help us live our life better, that can make us happy and successful, that can make us live our purpose better, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things they should expect is to work with a coach who can help them find out their strengths and then leverage their strengths to achieve whatever they wish to achieve, either in life, personally, professionally. Does that sound okay to you in terms of because you are a coach
So,
yourself, Surabhi? Yeah.
so the first thing that I'm going to tell everybody is you're delivering on your promise. I mean, what I said, right? You're a great storyteller, and you had to explain this whole thing as a story. So, yes, and uh, I that's my experience too. Uh, People actually realize uh, their weaknesses, but more than that, their own strengths. And I think these all these successful people who also work with, I mean, one more reason why they work with a coach, I think, is because the goal setting, identification of goal becomes is a one very important step. You know, people cannot write
Yeah.
even today. People don't really set goals because they don't know what
Agree.
goal to set. So what's the
Yeah.
identity? I mean, how to identify that goal becomes one very important aspect of your growth journey, and a coach can help
Mhm.
you do that. And uh, sometimes you just don't know what's possible, the potential of it. And yeah,
Yeah.
you said it
So
all.
essentially, this is the second thing they should expect from a coach or a coaching is that when people walk into this relationship with a coach, they want to accomplish many things. But remember, there is always a good to do and must do. And most of
Mm.
the people are confused, and therefore they end up expending their energies in almost everything. But remember, focus brings a lot of energy, and the
Mhm.
coach, therefore, helps you through the process to focus on the most critical goals that you should be working on, focusing on for a period of 8 to 12 months in your life, right? And that
Yeah,
process itself is so empowering and clarifying when you realize that you were spending time in activities. The example that I gave you of a entrepreneur who thought networking was a great way to keep building businesses, and then he was not reaching anywhere and suddenly realized that not anymore. So that
yeah,
that awareness that comes to you on where to focus your time and energy to achieve your goal is very empowering and very, how should I put it, it makes you lighter. You suddenly realize that there's no complexity anymore. It's so very simple.
yeah.
Just keep an eye and focus on it. That's the second part of what you can expect from a coach or a coaching process. Now, coming to the last part of your an hour of session or 2 hour of session, there are a few things a coach does. I mentioned earlier that they provide you a safe space, a confidential space where you can come and share, though they will not go out and share it with anybody. So it remains with them, right? The second is I also mentioned that coach is your partner. They're invested in your success. So when you are truthful and honest in sharing what you want to share and working on what you want to work and committed to your actions, you will find it's a win-win situation because coach is there to help you succeed only, right? In your success is the success of the coach. So the second part of this coaching process is this also. So I've talked about confidentiality. I've talked about being a partner coach. Also, what a coach does in an hour of session or 45-minute session is he'll help you think in a very structured way, um, make you reflect on what you believe, what you know of. Also, essentially, coach will help you think new. That's the very critical part. So, if you come into a coaching session and you are just sharing what you already know of, you're not going to go out any wiser or better. So,
Yeah.
coaches essentially, through the process, through the art of asking questions, make you start thinking new, challenging yourself, challenging your thinking. And that's when, like they say, Amrit Manthan or something, right? When the
Yeah.
churn happens, Amrit comes
Yeah.
out. So, there's a lot of churning
Yeah.
which will happen and you will experience in a coaching session. And you will suddenly actually feel lighter. He says, I always knew this, but why couldn't I think of this earlier, right? The new
Yeah.
realization, the new awareness which they will encounter. So these are some of
Yeah.
the things that they should expect to happen within a period of. It may seem like 60 minutes, but it's good enough for a good accomplished coach to help you in that situation, in that moment, to come out from a goal to action. Right, that's the journey
Yeah.
of 60 minutes. So there
Right.
is not the conversations have a purpose in a coaching. Right? They're not
Yeah.
feel good conversations. They're a purpose, and the purpose is determined by the
Mm.
client goal, and the coach's job is to take that purpose, convert it into a goal, and take it to execution through the form of
Right.
actions.
Right.
And
Yeah.
also, for each session, 60 minutes, there is a goal. Similarly, there is a goal for a larger journey. You may work with a coach for a period of 6, 8 months. So you have those larger goals, and each conversation becomes a milestone towards that. And that's how the progress happens. That's how the journey gets moved from point
Right.
A to point B, which is the goal. Yeah.
Right. I have so many points coming up in my head as
I know.
you're
I know.
walking through that journey. Like the first thing that I mean, in my uh, conversation also, I kind of give an analogy to my clients. I don't like to call them clients. They're my people actually. That
Okay.
your head is spinning in one way, and sometimes maybe I'm just going to put a stick in your thinking. Whatever spinning is happening, like you said, the churn, right? It gets
That's all.
and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that's why I'm here, and maybe you'll benefit. I've seen even the goal itself changing because now it's no more relevant, no more valid required
So,
as
yeah,
we
slowly. Yeah.
progress.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Very true.
that's why that focus part that you mentioned was so critical. Uh, Flowing this into the next one, and since we are talking specifically for successful people, right, and why how they benefit from the coach. Today, I mean, I'm sure it's been a story for some time, but exaggerated in today's time is they all facing, and you highlighted that part of lonely at the top in the very beginning of the conversation where uh, I see the stress levels, I see the burnout, I see extreme imposter syndrome. I also see decision fatigue, the what if scenarios, this or that. Will I reach there faster, quick, cheaper? All these kind of points. Anything specific that comes to your mind that for this on this specific aspect, a coach can really be of help in addition to being a thinking partner and sounding board. Sounding board is very good for decision making, but would you like to touch upon one of these points at least?
Look, I think if I have to connect the dots from what you said earlier or your question earlier was that successful people go through a cycle, right?
Yeah,
And they experience many things.
yeah,
So when you take the name of Larry Page or Jeff Bezos, we have seen from outside what their success is all about, right? We don't
yeah,
know their struggles, their challenges, right? We just
yeah,
get to know the good story,
yeah.
right? So success, and this is a cliche, success does not mean absence of failures, first of all, isn't it?
Wow. Yes.
Right? So which means there are a lot of failures. What are those failures? The world doesn't get to know. But each entrepreneur, each leader goes through failures. And in fact, the data suggests that there are more failures than there are more successes. But the successes
Mm.
are so big that they sort of
Yeah.
make a mincemeat of all the failures. But failures are always used by leaders to be better. So, how does a
Yeah.
coach help? You may not have any different journey, accepting that your ability when you're working with a coach to be able to manage those burnouts that you may experience, the
Mm.
manage that stress that you may be experiencing because of challenges in the business, challenges in your professional life, right?
Mm. Mm.
It could be also about relationships. Remember, we are a whole being. We are not a 9 to 5. We are not. When I work with a coach, you work. When you work with a client, or I work with a client, we are not working with a 9 to 5 guy. We are working with a whole human being. There are a lot of personal
Mm.
challenges people have, which might impact. So all these dimensions do come up in the conversations, directly or indirectly, when you work with a coach. And therefore, working with a coach will help leaders and clients and like you said, entrepreneurs manage those lows better. They
Yeah.
will be more reflective. They may probably learn from a failure, which they may not be doing if they're working on their own. Does it make
Right.
sense? Right?
Yes,
So,
100%. So that, yeah, go
yeah.
on, please. No, no, go
So
on.
that is the element that I would always recommend. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm in such a bad shape, nobody can help. I can
Yes.
bet. I can always bet. When you think you have lost hope, there's nothing nobody can do. Go to a coach. Coach will help you find that strength within you to be able to come
Yeah.
out of the situation. Where you
Right.
are blaming the situation or the ecosystem for your failure, you will find that you are leaving out something very, very, very powerful with yourself, within yourself.
Yes.
That
Yes.
potential to handle that moment, to handle that
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
Right?
Uh, so two things. One is you don't really start looking for a coach when you are in trouble. You should try and do that when everything is good also, so that the coach understands your ups and downs
Exactly.
and emotion journey. And second, I think
Right.
uh, I, Stephen Covey, circle of influence and circle of concern. I always bring that in my conversation because you can externalize the problem and we are powerless. If you internalize the problem, it's all the power, right? And many times we don't really out of three things, the outcome, process, and attitude, I mean that's my list, right? We hardly have any control over outcome. What we
Right.
can mostly control is the process, but we always can control the attitude because it's in
Right.
our head, right? That's what we think and how we perceive is all our story. So
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
know. These days there is a lot of this Ram Janmabhoomi thing going on. So I'm reminded of this Doha, which is
yeah,
like दोहा है पता नहीं कबीर या तुलसी का है वो कहते हैं कि दुख में सुमिरन सब करें सुख में करे न कोई जो
yeah,
सुख में सुमिरन करे दुख काहे कोय and I just bring it back to what you said that don't look for help only when you are in trouble,
yeah,
right? When you are successful, when you are happy, start working with the coach, and you may find that you may not encounter those situations. And even if you encounter the situations, you will be better. An example,
yeah,
Roger Federer, when he hired, I think, Boris Becker as his coach, was asked that you are successful, you are GOAT, greatest of all time. Why do you need a coach to work with? You know what he said? He said to stay at the top of my game,
yes,
right?
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
sums up. That sums up,
So
right?
to go there, reach there, and then stay there, that's another
Stay there.
journey, right? To stay, yeah,
Yeah. Again, nobody will give you feedback because you are the greatest of all times, right? Nobody can pinpoint
yeah,
and say a flaw in your forehand shot or a backhand shot, but a coach would do because coach is
right,
invested in your success. Coach will be
right,
dispassionate. Coach will operate from a place of empathy, but he will give you a very honest feedback of what he's or she is observing.
right. Great. So, uh, in one line, would you advise somebody starting their career today to hire a coach from day one?
If you go one line, I don't know. If you go to any
Okay.
book, it says that to build a good career, you should have 4 to 5 mentors, right? Coaching
Hmm.
being a 3 or 4 decade old intervention, I'd say have 3 4 mentors, but one coach also.
Okay, got that. Thank you, Deepak.
Yeah.
So that uh, was the so-called serious part, which was full with stories from Deepak. I'm happy with that. We are moving on to our next segment, which is I call it Expert Express. Uh,
Okay.
it's more quick questions looking for quick answers, and the rationale behind this is I believe that success leaves clues. So we are trying to get into your secret sauce of how you achieved your success. Ready?
Okay, okay, okay.
So, what's one habit that has improved your life the most?
Oh, okay. I don't know whether it's a habit or what, but I think what I'll call it the discipline uh,
Okay.
and consistency, right? Of whatever you do it in a disciplined and a consistent way. It could be about your food, it could be about your exercise, it could be your studying, books. Do it with a consistency and have a discipline. And that really has a very compounding effect in terms of outcomes that you will experience, the benefits you will experience.
Right. So, consistency, discipline. Got that. What are the two or three books that have significantly influenced your life?
Okay, I'll begin with the first one, which when I started my coaching career sometime in 2010-11, I came across this book. It's called The Quiet Leadership by Dr. David Rock. And in that book, he talks about how our brain functions and how we can leverage our brain functions and its organizing principles to live our lives better, much more happier.
Yeah.
So that was one. The second one is a book which I encountered during coaching. It's called The Humble Inquiry by Edgar Schein. Yeah. And
Yes.
the third one also, which is more than a 1.5 decade back, which is Marshall Goldsmith. Very simple book, but very profound messaging in that book, which says, "What got you
What?
here won't get you there" by Marshall Goldsmith. And I think that's a bestseller. If people are
Yeah.
interested,
I mean, I think
they can
everybody,
pick up this
and
book
that, that
at an airport shop and finish it by the time they land in Bombay from Delhi. Small book.
right. So, quiet leadership, I think I must have read in 2006 or 7, and that really changed my uh, way of leading. It was a transition from my retail business to back to tech business, and the culture was shifting, right? So, I had to
Interesting. Yeah.
change. It really helped me. Great. Okay, now this is even further rapid fire. I'm increasing the speed. I'm going to say one word, and I want you to
Uh,
give me what comes to your mind as the first thing in one word. Okay? No, no
uh,
thinking aloud.
uh.
Life.
Fun. Life is fun.
Okay.
Enjoy
Yes,
it.
I'm happy to hear that. Success.
Ah, purpose. I think for me at this
Okay.
age, at phase of my career, um, and people who know me or who go to my LinkedIn profile would see that I'm I find success when I find my purpose being lived by me, and that's why our initiative of coaching, educating the coaches to become coaches, right, and go and impact a lot of people. So I'll say purpose. That's the one word.
That's beautiful, Deepak. Happiness.
Happiness. Okay. Happiness is if I can break 90 consistently in my golf scores. Yeah,
Now,
that's happiness.
it's like boys never change, right? I mean, you can grow up, but finally,
Yeah,
the, the game and the sport is always exciting. Okay,
right.
so I got that. Great. So that's about mostly what we have covered. Let me quickly take a look at our if there are any questions for from our today's conversation. Okay, so we are streaming on multiple platforms, and here is one. Uh,
Uh,
that oh sorry, can you see me? Hear me? Yeah.
I can see and
Uh,
hear you. Yeah. So, yeah.
yeah. So the question here is, with AI and the new technology, will coaching be still relevant?
Okay. In fact, coaching would still be relevant. In fact, the recent trends suggest that the very basic level of coaching, which is maybe a problem solving, perhaps can be taken over by AI and bots, the way they
Yeah.
are functioning today. But the real coaching is the coaching where your being is impacted. It helps you in that way, and that coaching, I believe, will become more sharper and better because of AI. It will not replace, but the coaches will also have to learn and integrate some of these technologies into the coaching space. It's already
Right.
happening today, um, but the trends and the experts suggest that it will become better only with it, not it will not replace. Because
Yeah.
remember, coaching is uh, is a human interaction happening in a safe
Yes.
space, right?
Yeah.
And the way you interact with the machine may not give you that confidence and that so-called closeness in that coaching relationship, right? And it may
Yeah.
not therefore throw up a very honest um, sort of a situation in a coaching context, and therefore it will still remain with people for a long, long time. Who knows? A decade later, if this artificial intelligence does something very dramatically different, right? We all know
Yeah.
that there is a negative side of artificial intelligence also. So
Yes.
one has to be very careful with this. But yeah, it is not likely to impact in the next at least 4 to 5 years. That's my
Yeah,
view.
I think in some part more humanness will be required. I
Yes.
think even today, the whole part of networking and community building is also, in spite of having all the tech, because maybe people are experts are actually seeing this could be a problem, upcoming problem. Therefore, they're heightening that aspect of humanness and building
Yeah.
communities. I mean, and technology is enabling it even further, making it global.
Yeah.
And if I express a problem or a challenge and somebody says yes, I do understand, and that empathy comes from there, I want to hear it. And I think
Yeah.
that's why problem solving, exactly like you said, could help become better, but with AI. But you still need more of human
Yeah.
to bounce off ideas. And I think yeah,
Yeah.
so future is bright
Keeping it
for
real. Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And great. So that with that we are on time, and I think we got everything. Uh, Thank you so much, Deepak. There were many noteworthy points. For me, the core takeaway is I think coaching is a thinking partnership, and it's not remedial. So you should start looking for a coach and working with the coach when things are great and happy, so that when there's a blip, you have a strong support system to carry you through that journey. So great. Please put your all of you. Please put your takeaways in the comments. Let's learn from each other. Deepak, if people want to uh, connect with you, what's the best way of reaching out to you?
So of course I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to drop me a message and invite, giving reference of expert speak with Surabhi in that, and I will certainly connect with that. I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, so feel free to connect with me there as well. And yeah, pretty much.
Great. So I'll be putting a link to the three books that you mentioned and all your coordinates in the description in some time after we end this show. And thank you all for giving your time here. And I hope you learned something. And I hope to see you in the next episode of Expert Speak with Sylvie with yet another expert and engaging conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you so much. All the very best to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you.